With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by JaredNC writes, JaredNC writes, I would like to know your thoughts on The Farewell being snubbed by the Academy for the Oscars. I live in the Inland Empire and drove all the way to Irvine to go see it a couple of weeks after it came out. Even if the film wasn't loved by everyone, don't you find it stunning that Awkwafina wasn't at least nominated for Best Actress? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, one of the big things, and of course, every year that the Oscars come out, this is the thing. This is an industry that'll have 500 to 900 eligible films come out every year. But for most categories, there's 5 spots. 5 spots. That means 1 out of every 100 to 1 out of every 200 films that come out can possibly get one of those spots. It's incredibly difficult. That means every single year there are deserving people who aren't going to get a spot. I mean, that's just the way it is. One of the best films of this year was The Farewell. It was absolutely one of the best films of the year. One of the most moving, wonderful, emotionally satisfying movies I've seen in a long time. And it's an absolutely magnificent film. I am a little bummed it didn't get a Best Picture nomination, but when I go down the list, I'm not quite sure what you bump out to make room for it. And as far as Awkwafina goes, listen, I thought Awkwafina was great, but are you going to bump Scarlett Johansson's performance from Marriage Story out for her? I wouldn't. Are you going to bump Renee Zellweger out from her role in Judy? I personally wouldn't. Would you bump out Saoirse Ronan's performance in Little Women for Awkwafina in this movie? I wouldn't. Like, it would have been good to see her in there, but I just don't know that there's an argument to be made that she was so clearly better than one of these nominees that they clearly should have bumped out one of the nominees for Awkwafina, and I just don't think so. Remember, I love this movie, but I'm just not sure. So it is just one of these things about the Oscars that every year there's going to be movies. Dolomite Is My Name got no nominations. Uncut Gems, I don't believe got any nominations. And it's just one of those things. You're going to get tons of great movies, but a lot of them aren't going to get nominations because there's just not enough room for them. Rob, as you look though at we've had now about 24 hours to digest the Oscars this year and the Oscar nominations that have come out. As we now look back on it 24 hours later, if I had to put to you, what were some of the things what would you suggest or maybe would be the biggest snubs that stand out to you now 24 hours after the nominations have been announced? What are the biggest snubs of this year to you?
Well, I do think that Dolomite Is My Name. I was really expecting a nod to Eddie Murphy. I just thought that movie was so delightful, and his performance was such a joy to behold. But again, like you said, The Farewell, I mean, Awkwafina, again, a newcomer. She's been acting, but she hasn't had a lead role like this. And look, she took a Golden Globe. So it's interesting with all the talk of Oscar diversity and things like that. But and I actually found it interesting that Taika Waititi didn't get nominated as Best Director. But, I tweeted out today, people were talking about Greta Gerwig didn't get a nod for Best Director. And yet there's a screenplay nod there, and there's a Best Picture nod for her. And I said, back in 1976, Jaws was nominated for an Academy Award, but Spielberg was not nominated for Best Director. This is not something that's new. We always talk about Argo and how Ben Affleck didn't get nominated for Best Director. I mean, with snubs like this, there's always great, talented people because, like you pointed out, there's 5 spots. And you never know why somebody doesn't get it. But I think not getting nominated for an Academy Award, the important thing to remember is Taika Waititi is still a very talented filmmaker. And I look forward to everything that he's going to make, whether it's the new Thor movie, whether it's his upcoming soccer film. And just because he didn't get a nomination for Best Director, Jojo Rabbit still was recognized. And I think that's what you have to remember. I thought Robert De Niro was going to get nominated for The Irishman. I really did, especially having to act while dealing with the visual effects on his face. And how they had to shoot with 2 different cameras. And I mean, what was that like for an actor? And he was still able to deliver that kind of a performance. So it struck me as odd. I mean, Adam Sandler with Uncut Gems, people have been talking about, here's an actor who went way out of what we've seen from him before and created what is in all accounts, an indelible performance. and that didn't get nominated. So, you just never know. I think the important thing to remember is you don't have to get a nomination to do great work. That what we got in 2019 was a lot of amazing films that came out. I mean, I couldn't believe Willem Dafoe didn't get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for The Lighthouse. But I think, The Lighthouse was a difficult movie for a lot of people to like. It didn't go down as easy as some of these other movies. And it's like, what the hell is this movie? So a lot of the time when actors get nominated, it really is all about how is the overall movie perceived? How much do people love the film? And are they able to, if movie didn't quite work for them, but a performance was amazing, can they still nominate that performance? I think that might have been what happened to Willem Dafoe, because hell, sometimes I had a problem understanding what he was saying in the movie, but my God, did he throw himself into that performance? I'd never seen anything like it.
See, to that point, though, I think the Academy has shown historically they cannot like a movie overall and still recognize one of the disciplines being great. A great example of this in recent years was Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, which the Academy did not love, it won an Academy Award. It won the Academy Award. What was it? Hair and makeup? Is that what it won the Academy Award for? But Suicide Squad won an Academy Award. I think, Rob, honestly, there are a lot of great talented people who did not get a nomination this year because it was just too stacked. I loved Eddie Murphy in My Name is Dolomite. I would have been totally cool had he been given an Academy Award nomination. But I wouldn't bump anybody off the list for him, just to be honest. I loved Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. I thought he was fantastic. But to be honest, I don't know that I bump anybody off the nomination list to make room for him.
Right, that's exactly right.
The one name that really stands out to me is the one you brought up, and I've been talking about this for weeks. It's Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro, to me, carried that movie. He carried The Irishman. You're going to nominate it for Best Picture and Best Director, and two of the supporting actors, you're going to give supporting actor nominations. You're going to nominate for all this kind of stuff, but you don't nominate the guy who put it on his considerable shoulders and carried that movie. Granted, he had a lot of talent working around, but he was the pinning point of that whole movie. I don't understand how he didn't get a nomination, to be honest with you. And I would bump one or two people off the list for Robert De Niro. The second name that stands out to me as the biggest snub, Rob, is the one you absolutely brought up. It's Willem Dafoe in Lighthouse. Now, look, I walked out of Lighthouse going, "What the F did I just watch?" I mean, granted, it is a strange movie. It's a strange movie, but every moment Willem Dafoe is on screen and talking, whether he's talking about being a wiki or whatever it is he's wants to talk about. I am glued to the screen for every moment that he's speaking. Him and Robert Pattinson together were incredible. And I take nothing away from Al Pacino's performance in The Irishman. I really don't take anything away from it. But there's no way Al Pacino, who probably is overall a better actor than Willem Dafoe, but there's no way Al Pacino's performance in The Irishman was better than Willem Dafoe's performance in Lighthouse. I love Joe Pesci, and it was such a great return for him, but there is no way I nominate Joe Pesci over Willem Dafoe in Lighthouse. I thought, I don't know. I probably keep Brad Pitt in there for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I keep Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes in there, but there's a couple of names in there that I think I could easily be bumped out. So to me, those are the two clear biggest snubs this year. It's Robert De Niro not getting it best. Not that I think he necessarily should have won, but I thought he was a strong contender to win the award. And I think Willem Dafoe, who again, I think there's an argument to be made that he could have won the award for Lighthouse. And those are the two to me, Rob, that really stand out to me as a snub this year.
John, you think about like Brad Pitt didn't win the Golden Globe, and I know he's a favorite to win the Oscar, but if you were to just compare and contrast the two performances, and in terms of, an actor an actor has to build a reality. And when you're creating a character, Willem Dafoe's character was something I'd never seen before. Even the language. I mean, they went back and looked at sea shanties, period sea shanties at the time. The character that Willem Dafoe built and was able to be consistent with throughout that movie. I mean, that is what acting is all about. And this is not to take away from someone like Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt seemed to be, comfortably Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I know Willem Dafoe gave the more showy performance, but I just think that the level of craft that Willem Dafoe brought, and that's not, again, not to take away from Brad Pitt, because I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan, but my God, the work that Willem Dafoe had to do to bring that character to life consistently. Can you imagine on a daily basis being that character? I mean, that's crazy. Did he, when he went back at the end of the day, did he stop? Did he go back and see his wife and go, "Hey, honey," or is like, "Do you want to be a wiki?" I mean, I can't even imagine what that was like for him.
All right. Well, question here is, guys, now that you've had a chance to kind of stew on it for about 24 hours, what do you think are the biggest snubs? And of course, you're going to get them every year because there's hundreds of great films, or I mean, not hundreds of great ones, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of fantastic films, fantastic performances every year. Only 5 spots for most things. How do you see as the biggest snub this year? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.